how would you describe your relationship today?
I feel like we're great friends and co-parents.
I am pregnant. I feel like I want to cry.
Why?
Just because it's like, it gives me anxiety. Sometimes I'm just like, it makes you really like analyze just like where you're at. And then I'm like, sometimes like, what am I doing?
Kourtney Kardashian has shocked everyone. Behind the glamorous photos with Travis Barker, a darker reality has emerged, one filled with rumors of substance abuse, emotional strain, and a secret escape into the arms of her ex, Scott Disick. Why would Kourtney turn back to the man she once swore off? And what does this mean for her future with Travis? Tonight, we uncover the hidden truth behind Kourtney's stunning escape, and the surprising role Scott is playing in her life once again. For years, Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker have been celebrated as one of Hollywood's most iconic couples. Their whirlwind romance was full of fireworks, a love story built on romantic trips, heartfelt Instagram posts, and lavish wedding celebrations that made headlines around the world. To fans, it looked like a fairy tale. But as we've seen countless times with celebrity relationships, appearances can be deceiving. What the public didn't know was that behind closed doors, things were beginning to fall apart. At the heart of the issue were whispers about Travis's old struggles resurfacing. Despite years of progress and a reputation for having conquered his demons, recent allegations suggested he might be facing substance abuse problems once again. For Kourtney, this wasn't just about her marriage. It was about protecting herself and her children from the unpredictable chaos that comes with addiction. Sources close to the couple revealed that the tension was mounting. Kourtney, known for being strong and resilient, had been a constant support system for Travis, always there to pick him up during hard times. But even the most loyal partner can begin to feel the crushing weight of carrying someone else's battles. Friends and family reportedly began to notice the toll it was taking on her. The stress, the sleepless nights, the quiet moments of doubt hidden behind her confident exterior. And this is where the cracks in the glamorous facade started to show. The picture-perfect couple was no longer quite so perfect, and Kourtney found herself at a painful crossroads. Supporting a loved one through addiction is one of the most difficult roles anyone can take on. And for Kourtney Kardashian, it became her reality with Travis Barker. Addiction doesn't just impact the person struggling, it creates ripples that touch everyone around them. Friends, family, and especially partners often end up carrying a weight that is invisible to outsiders. In Kourtney's case, her loyalty to Travis was undeniable. She stood by him, encouraged him, and gave him a safe space to heal. But as anyone who has been in her position knows, love is not always enough to shield you from the storm. The emotional toll began to surface. Sources described how Kourtney tried to balance her commitment to Travis with her responsibility to her children and her own well-being. Each relapse scare, each moment of uncertainty, chipped away at her sense of security. She became the caretaker, the emotional anchor, and the protector, roles that can be draining, even for someone as strong as her. The reality is, supporting someone in crisis can lead to exhaustion, frustration, and feelings of helplessness. Those closest to Kourtney reportedly voiced their concern. They saw her carrying more than anyone should, and they feared the long-term effects it could have on her health. To the public eye, she still smiled for cameras and posted happy family pictures, but behind that polished exterior, she was fighting a private battle. The burden of loving someone through addiction was slowly wearing her down, and it was only a matter of time before she sought comfort elsewhere. When the weight of her marriage to Travis began to feel unbearable, Kourtney Kardashian found herself reaching out to someone familiar, her ex, Scott Disick. On paper, it might seem unusual to seek comfort from a former partner, especially one with such a turbulent past. But for Kourtney, Scott has always been more than just an ex-boyfriend. He's the father of her 3 children, a constant presence in her life, and someone who knows her history better than almost anyone else. Reports suggest that Kourtney leaned on Scott during this difficult period because he represented stability at a time when her world felt chaotic. Their bond has been through countless ups and downs, breakups, reconciliations, heartbreaks, and moments of healing. And while their romantic relationship may have ended years ago, their shared responsibilities as co-parents kept them connected. For Kourtney, this wasn't about rekindling old flames immediately. It was about finding a safe place to land when everything else felt uncertain. What makes this even more striking is Scott's own journey. He has battled addiction and personal demons himself, but in recent years, he has made significant strides toward personal growth. Those close to him have noted his efforts to become a more consistent father and a more reliable friend. When Kourtney needed support, Scott was there, ready to listen, ready to offer comfort, and ready to remind her that she wasn't alone. In that moment, their complicated past didn't matter. What mattered was that Kourtney found a familiar refuge in Scott, someone who understood her struggles without judgment. For years, Scott Disick was seen as the wild card in Kourtney Kardashian's life. His struggles with addiction, reckless behavior, and emotional instability often made headlines, leaving fans to wonder if he would ever truly get his life together. Yet, despite those struggles, Scott has remained a constant in Kourtney's orbit, not just because they share children, but because their bond runs deeper than most outsiders realize. In recent years, Scott has shown signs of meaningful change. Those close to him have spoken about his efforts to become more consistent, more grounded, and more present as both a father and a friend. He has admitted his faults openly, which in a way has made him more trustworthy. Unlike others who might try to hide their flaws, Scott's candidness about his past has allowed him to grow. And for Kourtney, seeing him take accountability mattered. When she turned to him during her struggles with Travis, Scott didn't play the victim or add more drama. Instead, he provided a listening ear and genuine support. He knew firsthand what it meant to wrestle with addiction, so he could empathize with her pain without judgment. That shared understanding created a space of safety, something Kourtney desperately needed. In the chaos of her marriage, Scott became the surprising calm. He reminded her of stability, consistency, and the importance of putting her well-being first. For Kourtney, this wasn't just about comfort. It was about rediscovering why trust, honesty, and growth matter more than appearances. The moment whispers surfaced about Kourtney Kardashian spending more time with Scott Disick, the media machine went into overdrive. Paparazzi shots, insider leaks, and anonymous close sources quickly began fueling speculation. Was Kourtney pulling away from Travis Barker? Could Scott and Kourtney be rekindling something more than just friendship? For fans, the story had all the ingredients of a Hollywood soap opera: a troubled marriage, a supportive ex, and the possibility of old flames reigniting. Social media exploded with theories. Some viewers insisted that Kourtney and Scott were destined to end up together, pointing to their long history and the fact that they share 3 children. Others argued that this was simply a case of Kourtney leaning on someone familiar during a difficult time. Nothing more. The headlines, however, didn't care about nuance. Tabloids plastered dramatic titles suggesting betrayal, secret rendezvous, and an inevitable divorce. For Kourtney, already under immense emotional pressure, the added spotlight only intensified her situation. Now, not only was she navigating a strained marriage and protecting her kids, but she was also forced to confront the world's opinions about her every move. And yet, amid all the noise, one thing became clear: her bond with Scott was undeniable. Whether as co-parents, confidants, or something deeper, their connection stood out as a stabilizing force in a storm. The media may have speculated wildly about where it was all heading, but for Kourtney, the focus wasn't about appearances anymore. It was about survival, clarity, and choosing what felt safe. As the dust settled around the media frenzy, Kourtney Kardashian began to confront an uncomfortable truth. She could not continue sacrificing her well-being for the sake of appearances or even love. Supporting Travis through his rumored struggles had pushed her to her emotional limit. And while she deeply cared for him, the constant fear of relapse, the sleepless nights, and the heavy responsibility of carrying his battles were slowly eroding her peace of mind. It was during this period that Kourtney started to draw new boundaries, not just with Travis, but within her own mindset. She realized that love should never come at the expense of mental health. Being loyal to someone didn't mean she had to lose herself in the process. For the first time in a long while, she gave herself permission to put her own needs first. This wasn't an easy shift. Kourtney has always been known as the steady, dependable one in her relationships, the person others lean on when things get hard. But now, she began to ask herself difficult questions. What example was she setting for her children if she allowed unhealthy cycles to continue? What would happen if she ignored her own needs for too long? By turning to Scott for support, she wasn't necessarily reigniting romance. She was reminding herself that stability and consistency mattered. Scott, through his own growth, showed her the importance of accountability. And together, they created space for her to reflect on what she truly wanted. Setting boundaries became Kourtney's first step toward reclaiming control over her life. In the middle of all the uncertainty, Scott Disick became more than just a co-parent or an ex. He became a source of stability that Kourtney Kardashian desperately needed. While their history has been rocky, filled with breakups and reconciliations, their bond has always carried an undercurrent of trust and familiarity. When Kourtney felt overwhelmed by her struggles with Travis, Scott was one of the few people she could turn to without fear of being misunderstood. What made Scott's support meaningful was not just his presence, but his empathy. Having battled his own demons with addiction and loss, he understood firsthand the emotional chaos Kourtney was living through. He didn't minimize her fears or offer shallow reassurances. Instead, he listened, allowed her to vent, and created a safe space for her to let her guard down. For someone like Kourtney, who was often seen as the strong one, the problem solver, the caretaker. This kind of space was rare and invaluable. Reports describe Scott offering her advice from his own experiences, reminding her that she wasn't alone in navigating the challenges of loving someone who struggles with addiction. This understanding built a bridge between them, one that no amount of tabloid speculation could cheapen. In moments when the outside world was watching her every move, when social media was dissecting her choices, and when her marriage felt like it was collapsing under the weight of addiction rumors, Scott's presence gave her something essential: comfort without judgment. And in that comfort, Kourtney began to rediscover her own strength. As Kourtney Kardashian leaned on Scott for support, she was still grappling with one of the hardest questions of her life. Should she stay loyal to her marriage with Travis Barker, or should she prioritize her own well-being and that of her children? The love she felt for Travis was undeniable. Their connection had been passionate, intense, and at times deeply inspiring. But love can become complicated when it collides with fear, uncertainty, and the shadows of addiction. For Kourtney, every day seemed to present a new internal battle. On one side, she wanted to believe in Travis, to trust that his struggles wouldn't define their future together. On the other, she knew the toll it was taking on her mental health. Constantly worrying about relapse, navigating mood swings, and living under the cloud of what if became exhausting. Her role as a mother only intensified the stakes. It wasn't just about her happiness anymore. It was about providing stability for her children, something she feared could be jeopardized by the instability in her marriage. This inner conflict was not easy to hide. While she remained poised in public, those closest to her could sense her exhaustion. She was torn between fighting for her love and protecting her peace, between the comfort of familiarity with Travis and the clarity she felt when leaning on Scott. In the end, Kourtney's story at this stage wasn't about choosing one man over another. It was about confronting the reality that sometimes love alone is not enough, and self-preservation has to come first. Amid the chaos of her marriage struggles and the speculation about her connection with Scott Disick, Kourtney Kardashian began to rediscover something she had lost sight of: herself. For years, she had been defined by her roles: the supportive partner, the loving mother, the steady presence in her family. But as she carried the weight of Travis's rumored struggles and the media frenzy surrounding her every move, she realized she had been neglecting her own needs. Turning to Scott, in many ways, reminded her of who she was outside of the drama. With him, she could vent, laugh, and reflect without the pressure of being perfect. He knew her flaws, her strengths, and her fears, and still offered unconditional support. That kind of connection gave Kourtney clarity. She didn't need to hide her emotions or pretend that everything was fine. It was okay to admit she was struggling. This period of reflection became a turning point. Kourtney started to set firmer boundaries, not just with Travis, but with herself. She began to prioritize her mental and emotional health, recognizing that true love cannot thrive if it comes at the expense of personal well-being. For her children, she wanted to model strength, not by enduring unhealthy dynamics, but by showing them that it's important to walk away when something isn't working. Through this clarity, Kourtney gained a renewed sense of control over her life. The storm with Travis was far from over, but she was no longer navigating it blindly. She was learning to value her own happiness. Again, Kourtney Kardashian's story is more than just a tale of love, triangles, and celebrity drama. It's a reminder of the resilience it takes to face life's toughest challenges under the harshest spotlight. As rumors of Travis Barker's struggles circulated and speculation about her bond with Scott Disick intensified, Kourtney was forced into a position few would envy, choosing between standing by a partner in crisis or protecting her own peace and stability. What makes her journey compelling is the way she handled it. Instead of collapsing under the weight of public opinion, Kourtney took the time to reflect, to lean on those she trusted, and to reevaluate her priorities. Scott may have provided her with comfort and understanding, but the real transformation came from within. She recognized that her happiness, her health, and the well-being of her children had to come first. This realization is not just a personal milestone. It's a universal truth many can relate to. The road ahead is uncertain. Will she rebuild her marriage with Travis, finding a new path forward together? Or will she close that chapter of her life for good and embrace a different future, perhaps with Scott or even on her own? Nobody knows the answer yet, not even Kourtney herself. But what's clear is that she has emerged stronger, wiser, and more grounded than before. Kourtney's journey highlights the complexities of love, the courage of self-discovery, and the importance of choosing stability over chaos. Whatever comes next, one thing is certain: she's no longer afraid to put herself first.